how did you decide that you wanted to get into doing these gigantic pieces? How did that come to you?
Well, I have friends that are, being a creative person. I have friends in all walks of the creative world. So interior designers, photographer friends, that sort of thing. So I had a friend that's an interior designer that started working on a nightclub called Banglish off of Peachtree, across from the Lowe's Hotel. And it was just such a massive space and so beautiful. And a typical piece of artwork would not have worked. And so he wanted to see something on a massive scale. I did not really know how to tackle it, but just took it as a challenge and said, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that was the first large scale. I call them digital murals because when I say murals, people get confused and they think that I'm painting them.
Right.
But they're not painted. I create them digitally in a very intricate layering process. So it's not an image that's just blown out big. It's highly detailed, highly layered, many hours of work. File sizes in the end end up being, several gigabytes.
So that's how this big scale started. Someone asked you for a piece for this nightclub. And how long ago was that?
I think that might have been 2012.
Okay.
I don't know anyone else in Atlanta anyway that does what I do. So
okay. Yeah.
I think my skill set is unique in that I'm a fine artist, but I also went to school to the Art Institute of Atlanta for graphic design. So I understand the computer digital part of things. And then when I graduated from art school, I did graphic design for Fortune 500 companies. So I also have the business and organizational skills that some artists just don't have. So when I work on a project, say, Norwegian Cruise Line, which I can't do a site visit because the ship is being built in Italy, and it's a very complicated.
You're kidding.
Yeah. So it's very complicated, and you're given all of these, architectural renderings and drawings and things like that, and you're working with teams that are all over Miami. I just did some things to someone in London. So you're having to communicate really well.
So this is Norwegian Cruise Line?
Yes. Yeah.
And they have asked you for a mural. Where would this be?
So they have a line of new ships called the Prima. Well,
Prima?
It's Prima, and then they have some other ones they're more like boutique hotels. And there's more attention paid to the finishes and the furnishings and the art program. And they commission artists from all over the world to create the art. So it's not this like mass-produced type of, it's just stunningly beautiful. And I just fell in love with the Norwegian Cruise Line brand and working with them. And so anyway, they challenged me to create 5 different designs that were then reproduced in 1,500 different cabins, or staterooms, what they call them, staterooms.
Staterooms, okay. The size of your artwork for these rooms, do you know what the dimensions will be?
Well, that was one of the challenges. I had to create something because there are different size rooms, so it had to be different images that could be scaled and cropped, fit into all these different. So they gave me a list of all the different sizes, but they're all huge. Like wall size.
Oh, like a full wall, not just a framed print.
Right.
Oh, behind the bed, the full wall of a bunch of different staterooms on these floating boutique hotel-like ships. This is so cool. How do you get such a gig? How did they learn about you?
The joy of Instagram, but networking also. So, you just meet people, art curators and things like that.
Solis high-rise apartments in Sugar Hill.
Yeah, some working on
selling them furnished.
They're not for sale, they're apartments, but it's a high-rise building of apartments. So they'll have an architecture firm, and then they'll have interior designers, and then they'll have, art curators that select all the artwork throughout the space. And I'll work directly with the interior designers and art curators to come up with different things to put in the space, depending on what the project is.
Right. What I'm not understanding for the building is where would you have art there?
Any of the common spaces. So like when you walk in, lobby spaces. I've done big murals for Icon Midtown and Icon Buckhead, which are high-rise apartments. So right when you walk in the lobby, I have a huge piece on the walls. The outdoor pool area. And so I did a huge piece printed on metal that goes down a wall, and then in the gym. So these are all common areas.
Yes. So outdoor as well?
Outdoors, yeah.
How do they hold up outdoors?
Well, a lot of research. I had to work with a printer to figure out what was the best method. I basically had it printed to metal.
Right.
Then a special laminate, almost like you would do signage. With the general contractor, because I knew I would have a few challenges, is how to create something big enough for the wall, right. How I was going to get it up there.
I hadn't even thought of that. How does one get a piece of that scale up 15 stories, you said, or 13 stories?
Yeah, I had to create it in panels.
Okay.
That were wide, however many inches wide that I could fit on the elevator. And I met with the general contractor and did a site visit with my hard hat and steel-toed boots, photos, took notes, and you just have to figure it out. So it's way more than just creating a beautiful image. There's so much work that goes into everything that I do.
Yes, because of the sheer scale of it. Yes, that's crazy.
But I love the challenge, and I love to learn new things, and
absolutely,
I like to research.
And so once you get these panels up and you assemble them, does it look seamless, or are they like, visually, can you tell they're panels?
It looks seamless. You're usually not like right up close to them. I can't see the seams, and they've held up perfectly. I went years later, and they're perfectly fine.
Let's go back to you got a free ride at the Art Institute of Atlanta. How did that happen?
Well, when I was in high school, I was just obsessed. That's all I cared about was art. So I was very driven. I wouldn't say, when you're young, you don't really understand ambition. You don't really think that far into the future when you're young and you don't really know what you want to do for a living. But it was what I loved to do. So I was obsessed. I didn't care anything about sports. I never went to a football game. All I did was create art. So I had a really great art teacher that gave me a lot of independence because I was so self-driven. And she encouraged me to apply. I guess she had found out about the scholarship. They would award one a year.
Wow.
So I submitted for that.
What high school were you at?
I lived in Dalton, Georgia at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so smaller town. And when you live in a small town, you don't really have exposure to other creative people. I had no idea. I just knew I wanted to do something in the arts, but I had no idea how to make a living.
Is that where you learned graphic design as well?
So I love to paint and draw and things like that, more traditional mediums.
Yeah.
But when I went to the Art Institute, straight out of high school, I just, you don't have the experience. All I had ever really heard about artists is that phrase, starving artist.
Starving artist. Yeah.
So I chose to go into graphic design, and I'm really glad that I did. It's more fun and gratifying doing the artwork. Like yesterday, I went on 2 job site visits. So I'm walking through with the owner of the business and the interior designer and taking notes and looking at swatches. and you're crafting a personality for a space, and everyone gets excited, has opinions about, it's not always easy, but there's something about watching a raw space being transformed that is so gratifying to me.
I bet so. Yeah. 2 careers going side by side.
I've always managed to do that. I have like different buckets of work. I have graphic design, and then I have art, and then I have the large scale digital murals.
Okay, so we're going to distinguish between the large scale and then just your art. Let's talk about the mediums you like to use when you're doing your art.
I have one here. I can give you a little demo, but I don't have it plugged out. So this piece is, there's a real butterfly underneath the acrylic dome here.
That's a real butterfly?
So it's a real butterfly. So when you look at those photos, you'll see there are quite a few that are done this way. And so this is all, painted. Some of it's digital collage, painted. There's layers of texture in the background. There's a real butterfly. There's feathers on this one. And then there's LED lights. Fortunately, I don't have it plugged out, but you can turn it on and off with a remote.
Which part of it illuminates? Which part of it?
The inside of the dome, where the butterfly is, that whole inside of that dome lights up.
You're kidding. That is fantastic.
And then I use different stones and resin. So there's actually, crushed gemstones and things like that, quartz crystals, that sort of thing. So you can't see from the monitor, but it's like textured. It's digital collage and then paint on top of that. And then on top of that, I use a resin. And then on top of that, I use a multitude of crushed stones, almost like powders, to add texture to the whole piece.
How do you get them to adhere to your piece?
With the resin.
Okay, so is it like a resin pour and then the stones go on top of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I just know myself very well. I know what I want. I know what I don't want.
Right.
And you just create the life you want to live and go after it and not really trying to please anyone else. So art can be a huge investment that increases in value. And I think a lot of collectors, like true collectors, understand that. It's just a completely different audience.
Have you been in communications with the city of Peachtree Corners?
I don't know. I met someone from North American Properties.
Okay.
But, and I begged him, I said, please make it have cool factor. It's got to have cool factor from the logo to the signage to, it's got to be, the personality has to appeal to the community.
Real butterflies, where are you sourcing those?
I buy them online. So they're all like responsibly sourced. You can read all about how they preserve them.
And they're that large?
That large? You get butterflies. Some of them are like this big. Yeah.
Are they
from all over the world? And I use so many different materials that there is no, I guess maybe I'm not the typical artist that uses one standard medium, one standard method. I'm constantly challenging myself to figure out new things.
What brought the bubble, the dome into your life? What made you think of that?
Because I had to figure out a way how to protect the real butterflies.
Oh, okay.
So you can see how they throw like a shiny metal, and I painted the back. The ones I'm doing for the high-rise apartment building, they're going to be monarch butterflies, so not exactly like this. These are blue, monarch are more orange. But I had to come up with a way of how I would attach these to the wall.
I wanted the look of butterfly, so this is how I am always problem solving. Both of my grandfathers were engineers, and maybe that's why I like to always figure things out. But I wanted the look. It needed to be a very durable material, because it's going to be in the common space. And not that people are that rough on things, but you still don't want someone to be curious and go to touch something that people will pull things off walls. I don't know why, but so I needed to come up with a very well thought out method and how I was going to create this look that would have longevity and look just as good on install day as 20 years from now in a commercial environment. How many butterflies are we talking that are going to be in this installation? 72. Ooh. Yeah, it'll be really fun to install. That's the other thing I'm needing to look at is how high up they're going to go and how tall my ladder will reach and if I need to buy a ladder. So you're actually also doing the installation? Yeah, I have someone that will help me. I created these different designs. This is like a miniature version. And then they wrap around these columns. So when you look at the columns in the interior, you see all these different graphics. So this is like a mini size print sample. And this is the full scale, just a strip of the design. Oh wow. So you can kind of see a nightclub. This is for a nightclub in Buckhead. Did you like the stones? Yes, again, so did they tell you what colors they were after? The interior designer selected. And you go for so it's printed on gold, so you get a little bit of a gold reflection. This is actually metallic, so you can kind of see the gold metallic in the front. Yeah. Like a mirror type finish. Very cool. And I do that because it looks really good under the lights. This is in the old, this spot is right underneath where the Olympic torch is. You know, the giant Olympic torch right up the interstate. It's the old Apache Cafe, but it's a new little lounge. So this is the miniature version, but it takes up a whole giant wall.
So this is for a restaurant and a hotel near Orlando. It's called Lake Nona, and it's so cool.
So the area is really unique, and I knew with the theme that the restaurant was not built out yet, but I knew I researched, who the developers were, what their intention was with the space, and it's one of those big live, work, play type environments. So there's hotels and businesses, and there's a nursing school there, and a very sophisticated clientele and people that are moving there. And it's very unique because there's different lakes around there. So I researched what are the native flora and fauna, birds, grasses, flowers, and I kind of went with the theme of it's like Taste of the Americas.
And it's a family-friendly restaurant. It's still a little bit more on the upscale, sophisticated, so the little playful element of the kid with the butterflies. I don't know how I come up with it. How do you describe inspiration? It's a tough one. I like to research a space and I like to research. So if you're opening a restaurant, the questions I would ask you, is this going to be fine dining, casual? Who's your audience? Where is this restaurant located? How do you want it to feel when you walk into the restaurant? Do you want it to be loud music? Do you want to have on the weekends? Or do you want, there's so many different personalities that you can create within a space. And I want to understand what that goal is and what that personality is. Right. And then I just go daydreaming from there.
Yeah.
I like abstract shapes. You can see a lot of different shapes and lines. I like movement. I use like flowing kind of movement a lot in my work. Even if it looks like it's a, long horizontal piece, there's a rhythm to how a piece of artwork flows from left to right. I was just so ready to get out of small town, moving to Atlanta to go to art school was, that is just my destiny. I just was not meant to live in a small town. I couldn't do it. So thank goodness that scholarship is what brought me to Atlanta. It's just an evolution as you move through your career and you figure out what your skill set is and what you love to do. My little dog is in here.
Hi, little dog. Hi. Aw. Oh, look at that wagging tail.
He's only 7 months, so he's a little character.
Oh.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, there's just so many different directions you can go with this, and obviously it seems limitless. When I'm looking at your work, I feel like there are no limits. It's just anything goes, and you can be inspired by whatever. And especially when you're working for others, and you're gearing it towards a certain restaurant or hotel, or so open-ended and mystifying, really.
To my blog, it's on my website, and there's some kind of behind the scenes photos on there. I had just started that blog almost to keep it like a diary in a way. Because, you know, once you get years down the road and you have all these projects and you forget, you know, the details behind a project. So I thought it was kind of fun to see the, you know, when a space was under construction versus when it was done.